Imagine this for a moment. You're standing at the checkout line, people behind you waiting, the cashier looking at you with that polite but slightly impatient expression. You swipe or tap your debit card, and then out of nowhere, the screen flashes those two dreaded words, payment declined. Your heart skips a beat. You know there's money in your account, but in that instant, you feel embarrassed, even a little panicked. You don't want to hold up the line. You don't want anyone thinking you can't pay for your groceries. So, without hesitation, you try again. And that's exactly what the scammers are counting on. Wisdom beyond 60, dear everyone. This is not just another ordinary glitch at the register. Across the country, a dangerous new trick is spreading quietly, targeting seniors more than anyone else. It looks innocent, almost like an everyday mistake, a simple declined message. But behind that flashing word lies a carefully designed trap, a way for criminals to skim your card details and drain your account before you even make it home. Why is this so alarming? Because it hides in plain sight. Declined transactions happen all the time, right? Maybe the machine froze, maybe the internet was slow, maybe the card chip was dusty. We've all brushed it off before, and that normality is what makes it the perfect disguise. The very moment you assume it's nothing, the thieves slip in, collect what they need, and disappear into the shadows of cyberspace with your hard-earned money. This scheme isn't random, it's psychological. Criminals know exactly how human nature works. They understand the embarrassment of standing at a counter, the instinct to fix the problem quickly, the trust we put in a store clerk who tells us, just try again. They are exploiting your politeness, your desire not to cause a scene, and turning those virtues into vulnerabilities. For older adults, it's even more dangerous. Many of you rely on debit cards, which take money straight from your account. Unlike credit cards, where suspicious charges can be flagged before payment is due, debit fraud takes cash out instantly, leaving you scrambling, sometimes for months to recover it. That is why this warning is urgent. I don't want you, or anyone you care about, to fall into this trap. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk you step by step through how this scam is set up, why seniors are being targeted, the red flags you need to recognize, and most importantly, what to do if it happens to you. But I want you to make yourself a promise right now. Don't brush this off. Don't assume it can't happen to you, because the only thing standing between safety and disaster may be that one single moment when you decide to pause, to question, and to act differently. Before we dive deeper, I ask you kindly, if you value this kind of information, if you want more content that keeps you and your loved ones protected, please subscribe to this channel. By supporting Beyond 60 Wisdom, you're not just helping me create more videos, you're building a safer, smarter community where seniors can share knowledge, learn from each other, and stay one step ahead of those who would take advantage. Your subscription is the encouragement that keeps this channel alive, and every click matters more than you might think. Now let me leave you with a small thought experiment, a simple question to spark reflection and conversation. If your card were suddenly declined at the grocery store, what would you do? A. Immediately try again without thinking. B. Pause, ask questions, and double-check before swiping once more. Write your answer, A or B, in the comments below. Your response might not only help you reflect, but could also guide someone else to make the right choice when it really counts. Picture yourself in one of those ordinary, forgettable moments of daily life, standing at the register with a bag of groceries or fueling up your car at the gas station. You slide or tap your debit card, expecting the familiar beep of approval. Instead, the machine blinks coldly. Payment declined. The clerk looks up, shrugs, and with a practiced tone says, "Try again." The people in line shuffle impatiently, and you feel that subtle pressure pushing you to act quickly. You don't want to look like you don't have money. You don't want to hold everyone up, so you go along with it. What most people don't realize is that this scene can be staged, carefully engineered by someone who knows exactly how to exploit that split-second decision. This trick works because it feels so normal. Payment terminals are not flawless. Sometimes the internet connection lags, sometimes the chip reader is temperamental, but scammers have figured out how to turn those everyday glitches into a weapon. Some machines are tampered with physically. fitted with a thin overlay that looks like part of the keypad or slot, but is really a device designed to capture your card number and PIN. Others are manipulated through software tweaks, where a false error message is programmed to appear on the very first attempt. In some cases, it's as simple as an employee pressing a cancel button before the transaction completes, then nudging you to swipe again. To you, it looks like an ordinary hiccup. To them, it's the perfect chance to steal your financial identity. Think about the psychology behind it. Scammers don't need force. They don't need threats. They rely on something far more predictable: human behavior under pressure. When a line of strangers is waiting, when you're already flustered with bags in hand, when a uniformed cashier reassures you it's fine to just try again, your instincts are to comply. That instinct is not weakness, it's courtesy, efficiency, a desire not to cause a scene. But it is exactly those instincts that criminals have studied and rehearsed against. The cruelty of this setup lies in its invisibility. You walk away relieved when the second attempt goes through, convinced it was only a minor glitch, unaware that your details were already skimmed on the first try. The scam is like a magician's sleight of hand. You focus on the surface problem, the failed transaction, while the real theft takes place beneath the surface. And because nothing seems out of the ordinary, you don't even realize you've been tricked until days later, when strange charges appear, or worse, when your account has already been drained. It's important to understand this is not about technology alone. It's about psychology fused with technology. Criminals know that embarrassment is a powerful lever. Most people would rather endure the inconvenience of trying again than stand their ground and question what's happening. They know that trust is built into transactions. We assume the terminal belongs to a legitimate business. We assume the cashier is honest. We assume declined means what it says. In that blind spot of trust, they set the trap. And here's why it matters so much. The victims often don't see it coming, because nothing about the moment screams danger. It is not like handing your wallet to a stranger in a dark alley. It's paying for your bread, your gas, your medicine in broad daylight. That normalcy is the camouflage. And that's what makes this particular trick so devastating. It doesn't just steal money, it steals peace of mind. It erodes the sense of safety in everyday routines, turning the most ordinary tasks into potential traps. The deeper truth is that scams like these are designed to exploit the very qualities that define decency: courtesy, trust, efficiency, values many of us were raised on, become vulnerabilities when criminals decide to weaponize them. They know you don't want to question every clerk. You don't want to accuse every store of dishonesty. You don't want to suspect every malfunctioning machine. They count on that reluctance. They count on the little voice inside you that says, it's probably nothing. But what feels like nothing can end up costing everything. That is why it's so important to recognize that this so-called declined message might not be an accident at all. It might be the curtain drop in a performance designed to distract you while your financial life is quietly stolen in the background. Once you see the mechanics of the trick, once you understand how it preys on both the machine and the mind, you'll never look at that simple word, declined, the same way again. Let's pause for a moment and ask an uncomfortable question. Why are older adults the primary targets of this scheme? It isn't random. It isn't chance. It's intentional. Scammers study behavior the way a hunter studies his prey. They look for patterns, for vulnerabilities that don't require breaking locks or hacking codes, but instead rely on something much simpler: human nature. And seniors, more often than not, embody the very qualities these criminals know how to manipulate. Many older adults were raised to be polite, respectful, and accommodating. If something goes wrong at the checkout, their instinct is to cooperate, to avoid causing trouble, to trust the system. That politeness is not a weakness, it's a reflection of dignity and values. But in the eyes of a criminal, it is exactly what makes seniors ideal victims. When the screen flashes declined, a younger person might challenge the situation, ask pointed questions, or pull out their phone to check their bank immediately. A senior, wanting to keep things smooth and respectful, might simply swipe again. And that single choice is all it takes. But it's not only about courtesy, it's also about financial habits. Many seniors rely heavily on debit cards rather than credit. They grew up in a time when debt was considered dangerous, something to be avoided at all costs. Debit felt responsible. It was a way to spend only what you had. Yet in today's environment, that very discipline creates risk. Unlike credit cards, where fraudulent transactions can be disputed before money leaves your account, debit cards draw directly from your checking balance. When fraud happens, the funds vanish instantly. Rent money, grocery money, savings for medicine, all gone in a blink, with no buffer to catch the fall. Recovering stolen money from a debit card isn't as swift or simple as the advertisements might lead you to believe. Banks will eventually investigate, yes, but eventually can mean weeks, even months. Imagine living on a fixed income, already counting every dollar, and suddenly hundreds vanish while the investigation drags on. The stress of unpaid bills and sleepless nights compounds the financial loss. Scammers know this delay works in their favor. They strike precisely because they understand how devastating that waiting period can be. There's also the factor of technology. Younger generations check their accounts multiple times a day, scrolling through apps as naturally as reading a newspaper. Many seniors, however, do not feel the same urgency to log in daily. Some prefer paper statements, others rely on occasional checks. That slower rhythm of monitoring creates a window of opportunity. A thief who skims your card today might have hours, even days, to exploit it before you notice. By the time you see the charges, the money may have been funneled across borders, spent, withdrawn, or layered through transactions that make recovery nearly impossible. To a scammer, this combination, politeness, debit dependence, slower monitoring, isn't just attractive, it's perfect. They don't have to trick everyone. They only need a subset of the population who checks all those boxes. And sadly, seniors often do. But let's be clear, these qualities are not flaws. Being courteous, avoiding debt, trusting others. These are strengths, virtues even. They are evidence of lives built on respect and responsibility. What makes this scam so cruel is that it weaponizes those very strengths against the people who hold them most dearly. It's not about weakness, it's about exploitation. That's why awareness matters. If you understand why criminals are choosing seniors, you begin to see the bigger picture. It isn't about luck, it isn't about whether your card works or fails. It's about calculated choices made by people who have studied your generation's habits. And once you see that clearly, you can begin to turn the tables. You can recognize that your courtesy does not need to mean compliance, that your reliance on debit does not have to mean vulnerability, and that your slower pace of checking accounts can be adjusted with small, simple habits. Knowing the why is as important as knowing the how. Scammers have chosen seniors because they believe you are easy prey, but knowledge flips the balance. Once you recognize the pattern, you are no longer a passive target. You become someone they cannot easily fool, someone who understands that the very moment of decline is not just an inconvenience. It might be the opening move of a carefully rehearsed trick. And by seeing through that trick, you take back the power they thought they had. The most unsettling part of this scam is not the technology. It's the fact that the warning signs are often right in front of us, but easy to overlook. Once you know what to watch for, the illusion begins to crumble. The first red flag is the behavior of the person behind the counter. In a normal situation, when a transaction fails, a cashier will usually check the machine, maybe suggest a different card, or even print out a slip to confirm the decline. But when someone urges you immediately, almost impatiently, to try again without any explanation, that should set off alarm bells. That rush, that push to act without thinking, is not just customer service. It may be manipulation designed to keep you from pausing long enough to realize something is wrong. The second warning sign is the machine itself. Payment terminals are supposed to sit firmly in place, simple and straightforward. If the card slot looks bulky, loose, or as if an extra layer of plastic has been added, trust your eyes. Criminals often use overlay devices that look almost identical to the real thing, but they don't fit perfectly. A terminal that wiggles when you touch it or has a keypad that feels off may be more than just worn equipment. It could be a skimmer disguised to steal your information at the moment you insert your card. Delays are another clue. A legitimate transaction usually processes within seconds, But when the screen lingers uncomfortably long before announcing a decline, it's worth questioning. That pause can be the sign of malicious software running in the background, capturing data before the system responds. It's not always obvious, but once you train yourself to notice unusual timing, it becomes harder for scammers to hide in plain sight. And then there are the small, almost invisible transactions that appear later. Many victims discover charges of just $1 or $2 from businesses they don't recognize. It feels harmless, easy to dismiss as a bank error. But in reality, those tiny charges are tests. Criminals checking if your card is still active before they move on to larger withdrawals. Banks call them test transactions, but you should see them for what they are: the burglar rattling your doorknob before breaking in. Ignoring them can lead to devastating consequences once the real theft begins. Perhaps the most important red flag, though, is the one that cannot be seen by anyone else: your own instinct. Seniors often have decades of experience, a kind of radar that has been shaped by a lifetime of observing people and situations. Too often, that inner voice, the subtle sense that something feels off, is ignored out of politeness or the fear of being wrong. But your instincts are not random. They are a survival tool, sharpened through years of living and learning. If you feel unsettled by a clerk's tone, by the way the machine looks, or by the timing of a decline, that gut feeling deserves your respect. The tragedy is that many victims later admit they had a hunch, but brushed it aside. They didn't want to make a fuss, they didn't want to embarrass themselves, and so they complied. Scammers rely on that hesitation, on the belief that it's better to be polite than to be cautious. But the truth is, trusting your instincts can save you more than just embarrassment. It can save your financial stability, your peace of mind, and the independence you've worked so hard to protect. These warning signs, once recognized, change the entire equation. A hurried cashier, a loose terminal, a strange delay, a string of tiny charges, or a gut feeling that refuses to quiet down. None of these should be ignored. They may be subtle on their own, but together they form a pattern that says, stop, slow down, and think. Scammers thrive on your speed and compliance. By noticing these signs, you deny them their greatest advantage. And that simple act of awareness may be the single most powerful protection you have against a scheme designed to strike in the blink of an eye. What makes this scam especially cruel is not only the theft of money, but the way it disguises itself as something so ordinary, so routine, that most people dismiss it without a second thought. A declined transaction doesn't raise alarms. It feels like part of everyday life. We tell ourselves the card reader must be dirty, the connection must have lagged, the bank system must have hiccuped. And because that explanation seems harmless, we move on quickly, unaware that the decline may have been staged from the very beginning. This is the camouflage that makes the trick so dangerous. It hides in the mundane, turning what should be a minor inconvenience into the moment your financial safety is quietly stripped away. The danger multiplies when debit cards are involved. With credit cards, fraud can be caught before your money actually leaves your account. You have a billing cycle, a chance to dispute charges before paying the bill. But with debit cards, the money is gone the instant the scam succeeds. It's not a question of correcting a statement later. It's your rent money, your medication budget, your grocery funds disappearing into the hands of a stranger. And while banks may promise protection, what they rarely explain is how long the road back can be. Victims often wait 30, 60, even 90 days before reimbursement is processed. Imagine living on a fixed income, already counting every dollar, and then being forced to juggle bills, delay payments, and borrow just to survive while you wait for a bank to finish its investigation. That emotional weight, the sleepless nights, the anxiety of wondering how to make it through another week can be even more exhausting than the financial hit itself. What deepens the wound is the silence that often follows. Many seniors feel embarrassed when they realize they've been scammed. They blame themselves for not noticing, for not questioning, for being too trusting. That shame keeps them quiet, and in their silence, the scammers win twice. First, they steal the money. Then they steal the victim's voice, leaving them isolated and reluctant to report the crime. And every day that passes without a report gives the criminals more time to drain accounts, move funds, and target someone else. This cycle of shame is part of the scammer's design. It thrives not just on secrecy, but on our unwillingness to speak up. It's not just the bank balance that's affected. Trust itself becomes fractured. Suddenly, the act of paying for groceries feels threatening. A simple gas station purchase comes with doubt. The places and routines that once felt safe now carry a shadow of risk. This erosion of trust is perhaps the most damaging part because it undermines a sense of independence. Seniors who once moved confidently through daily life begin to second-guess themselves at every turn, and that constant doubt chips away at dignity. This is why recognizing the true danger of the scam is so critical. It's not only about losing money, it's about losing peace of mind. The criminals know that once you feel uncertain in ordinary transactions, you carry the weight of that fear into every part of your day. They want you distracted, unsettled, hesitant, because hesitation buys them time. And yet, the very fact that you're listening to this warning is proof that you can take that power back. Awareness is the first defense. Once you understand that a declined message might not be innocent at all, you approach the situation differently. You pause, you look closer, you trust your instincts. And that pause, the willingness to question what feels routine, can make the difference between losing everything and walking away safe. The cruelty of this trick lies in its ordinariness, but the solution begins with awareness. By understanding the stakes, by accepting that the danger hides inside something as common as a card reader, you strip the scam of its disguise. And in doing so, you not only protect your wallet, you protect your confidence, your independence, and your ability to live each day without fear of what's lurking behind a blinking decline sign. When we step back and look at everything we've uncovered, it becomes clear that this decline payment trick is not just about money. It's about trust, dignity, and independence. What makes it dangerous is not only the theft itself, but the way it hides in plain sight, tucked inside the most ordinary transactions. That is why the greatest protection lies in awareness. Once you know how the scheme is set up, once you understand why seniors are being targeted and how the warning signs appear, you no longer face it blindly. You see through the disguise, and that awareness turns what could have been a moment of loss into a moment of empowerment. The lesson here is not to live in fear, but to live with wisdom. Being cautious does not mean being paranoid. It means giving yourself permission to slow down, to breathe, and to question when something doesn't feel right. You have earned the right, through years of life experience, to trust your instincts. Those instincts are not weakness. They are strength born from a lifetime of navigating challenges. When you honor that inner voice, you are protecting not only your money, but your peace of mind. For older adults especially, the deeper message is this: your habits and values are not flaws. Courtesy, patience, and trust are beautiful qualities, and they do not need to disappear in a world full of scams. What they need is balance. Being kind does not mean being naive. Being respectful does not mean surrendering your safety. By adding just a few simple habits, like checking your accounts more often, setting up alerts with your bank, or using credit for larger transactions, you can keep living the way you always have while staying better protected. This scam is a reminder that the world has changed, but it is not a reason to give up hope. Instead, it is a call to adjust, to adapt, to use the wisdom you already carry and pair it with practical tools. And in that adaptation, there is something deeply positive. A chance to prove to yourself that you are still strong, still capable, still able to stand up for your independence. Many seniors underestimate just how much power they still hold. But knowledge, vigilance, and the courage to pause in that critical moment, those are tools no scammer can take away. So let this warning carry a brighter truth. You are not helpless. You are not alone. You are part of a generation that has faced far greater challenges than a blinking machine or a dishonest clerk. This is just one more test, and you already have everything you need to pass it. Protect yourself, yes, but also hold on to your confidence. Because your security is not only about guarding your wallet, it's about preserving your freedom to live each day with dignity and peace. Now let me ask you something simple to reflect on. If you were faced with a sudden declined message, Would you pause to question it, or would you immediately try again? Comment below with your answer, because your perspective might help someone else make the right choice in that very moment. And finally, if you found this video helpful, meaningful, or inspiring, please subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with your thoughts and share this message with your friends and loved ones so we can spread awareness together. At Beyond 60 Wisdom, we want to walk this journey with you every day, learning, reflecting, and protecting what matters most. Your support gives us the strength to keep creating better videos for you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for spending your time with us today. We appreciate you, we respect you, and we look forward to continuing these conversations with you.